Next up, if rainy weather this month has delayed you getting into the field for planting, it might be an opportunity to use the extra time to make sure your center pivot irrigation system is in good working condition and ready to go for when the time comes. Irrigated Cropping Systems Extension Educator Steve Melvin has a checklist of a few things he likes to remind producers.
First off, I always tell guys if it's got electricity hooked to it anywhere, and even a hydraulic pivot probably has an electric hook to it that turns a hydraulic pump or something. So just make sure you always, turn the disconnect off, and there's a place to put a padlock on that and put a padlock on it. I mean, today and age when people can start pivots from, their cell phone from Hawaii, if they're on vacation, even, we just need to make sure that somebody doesn't start it, even if you're just, fixing a flat tire, and, make sure everything's working. And then, if you find a sprinkler's not turning correctly, or maybe it's pulled off and there's just water shooting out, or there's, a leak somewhere, take note of all of those and get those fixed.
Steve also says you'll want to make sure the pivot's water pressure is correct, since it's the most critical thing to monitor during the growing season.
One thing that I suggest is that we figure out a good way to measure pressure. And a lot of times there's a pressure gauge out on the pivot, but it's been there a few years and we're not quite sure it works right anymore. In fact, the one that stays on 40 pounds when the pivot's off, we know that one's no good, right? But if we take one of these Schrader valves, it's basically like the valve stem on a tire that we put air in with. But with this one, we can screw it into the center pivot at the pivot point, and we can then get a air chuck with a grip on it and put the pressure gauge on it. We can clip that on the center pivot, start it up, and we can see where it's at, or if it's running even, we can put it on and see where the pressure's at. The nice thing about this is we can spend some money and get a really good gauge, and then when we're done with it, we can put it in the glove box to pick up or back at the shop, and we can go, if we've got 10 pivots, we can check all of them with the same gauge, and that way we know that it's okay and everything's in good shape. Also, I encourage people to put those Schrader valve at the end of the machine and park get the pivot to the highest point in the field. And particularly later in the season when the pressure tends to drop off, take that gauge out there and clip it on and see what the pressure is. It should be 5 pounds more than the pressure posted on the pressure regulators.